we'll see it in a bit. Yeah, there is like this kind of delay. Yeah. Now I see us. Now I see you.
Great. I didn't take out the green filter.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch my camera any further. I think it stays like this just in case.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
No, I think in podcasts they call it pre-show.
All right. And are we supposed to do something in the pre-showing?
No, sometimes you chat like we do it now. And then they have these kind of special informations. And then people now start writing in the chat hello. And then
Hello.
we can say also hello. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we have to explain that our internet is not so the best. That we have this kind of delay of 2 minutes, of 30 seconds or so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do chat and talk at the same time. Also, my English is so bad.
Oh, no, it's not bad. It's okay. No, seriously, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for so long,
Let us wait the 3 minutes and then start.
Then we start. Like German time, I think in Spain would at least, well, maybe not sure for online events, but 10 minutes late. But then it's weird, right, to wait for people that you don't see.
Yes, I would say we do it in the German Prussia. We start on point sharp.
Perfect.
I like it. And yeah. Best of luck to both of you. And Tima is saying. That's Igor Strohmeyer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. But isn't called bad luck if someone says good luck? Shouldn't it be break a leg?
Oh yeah. Well, I hope not, because if you have to go to a hospital now, you're dead.
Oh no, that would be and also and often I watched often Twitch, and then the chat starts to talk with themselves, you know. Then people meet in the chat and they know each other, and then they say hello, and it's already happened. Igor meets his friends here, and nice. Yeah, this should I think we should incorporate this more, but I don't know, with Twitch it's so I was always skeptical because Amazon bought it.
Oh really? Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, they started independently as a real only gaming platform, and then Amazon bought it. And then they gave the whole platform a huge boost by saying that if you have Amazon Prime, then you can donate €5, I think, months or so to a streamer.
All right.
So they give you €5, and then but in the end, it looks only like €5 because the streamer gets only $2.50. So it's a little bit strange, but as I know, as far I'm not a professional streamer or anything, but they talk sometimes about this. And I haven't researched it or so, but that means if you have kiddies or so and they watch then their famous Let's Player, they can then get from the Amazon Prime, from the family, this kind of €5 and donate this to the streamers, and so the streamers get then money. And so this started then to become really like a business model for a lot of streamers. And that was not the case in Twitch before, like on this dimension. You know?
All right. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a huge community of gamers, and now this kind of real life chat is also growing a lot. And we are on DEFOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO So then we say hello to everyone.
Hi everybody. Hope everybody's safe.
Everybody. And I see now these are 10 people, not 180.
Yeah, 180 was too much.
So it's an intimate circle of friends. Yeah, and I'm happy and proud that you're taking part on this event
No, thanks.
of panke.gallery. And yeah, I see this now as like a Sunday afternoon tour through the gallery. And we are lucky that, in a way, because we had to cancel our exhibition, but we could be lucky in compared to others that your pieces are net art pieces from the beginning. So they were more or less a little bit wrong in the wrong place in the gallery. So it's nice to watch them here now and see them in their nature environment, in the wildlife of net art, of the internet. And yeah, in this sense, for me, it's maybe a format what could be good for the panke.gallery, for also for other exhibitions. And I had this developed in long years before, but yeah, I saw the power of a place and meeting real people and meeting in real life you can't compete with. And this is much better than online. But now we are online again, and so why not? And yeah, I was thinking that your position is was for me. Yeah, I followed you. I think since these CO2 Google.
Mm-hmm.
No, how it's called?
Yeah,
Yes.
you can't really pronounce it.
Yeah, and I saw this piece, and then I thought, yeah, this is a net art. You called it, I think, net art installation.
I don't remember.
Or an internet installation also. And I thought, yes, nice. This is it's because it was also in the time 2016, I think, or so.
14.
No, 14 already, yeah. Yes, 14. And then where I thought there are not so many people really doing net art works or pieces like an installation. So you know what I mean? So that they really do a net piece, not only publishing pictures also, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, wow, interesting. And yeah, then I visited you in Barcelona, as I said, but more or less by random, by incident. I lived above you, but we couldn't meet each other.
Yes.
Yeah. But now, yeah, it came to this exhibition. And I was thinking, because as I was planning the exhibition, I was thinking I would like to do something about the climber and this kind of climber topic. And then I was thinking on, on your pieces. And I was thinking on focusing only on these three pieces. And this was, what I proposed then to you. And you said yes, and you were happy to do it. And I think, this is a moment more or less where you could read the introduction. So a little bit.
I will.
Elevate it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was funny because we almost did the setup at the gallery, right? But yes. It was crazy times, just 2 days before they shut down everything. Anyway, we are here. So I wrote this statement for the exhibition that originally had to be in the exhibition at Panke, but I'm just gonna read it, which introduces the three pieces. So I'm gonna read it. So although it is intensively engaged in the logic of networks, the network society has so far failed to transpose the logic of networking into daily life. We lazily assume that everything is connected, but we must remember that everything is not connected, as Graham Harman stated. While humans are becoming increasingly machine-like and dependent on data, the connection between humans and their life-giving natural habitat is hastily fading away. Sorry, it's Sunday. We seem to have withdrawn into a machinic vacuum of reality which blinds us to the complexities of the world. Therefore, it is necessary to continuously trace the connections that exist between things in order to acquire a complex understanding of the world. The actual configuration of technology reinforces cultural dynamics, rituals, that stress disconnectedness. In our contemporary algorithmic decision-making society, ecosystems are being increasingly considered as mere economic externalities. How can we re-articulate our relationship with the world if we are unable to see the actual impact of our actions in the concrete world? What can be the role of media art in general, in the reinforcement of such process? What fundamental political shifts need to occur to reveal the connections between actions and consequences, especially when those actions are mediated by technology? I believe it is crucial to create mechanisms that stimulate and reappropriate subjectivity, an essential process in the generation of critical thought about the true nature of technology and in the imagination of alternative techno paradigms which may coherently respond to our environment and human conditions. That was just the introduction to the exhibition. That's it, which I think that sort of resumes what I was trying to achieve with these three pieces, which are three, which is the one that you mentioned, another one that's called DEFOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO So do you want to add something to this, or I should just go on and show the pieces?
I would like to say on the beginning of the chat there is a link to the website where all the links of the 3 pieces are, so the people can follow us on the internet parallel or so. Yeah, is the text you have read somewhere published, or do you have it on a website? Or I think I haven't published it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's just pieces.
Maybe we should publish it afterwards,
Yeah,
after
maybe.
streaming.
I mean, it's really very small. It's like
Sure,
pieces
but
of
it was
here
for
and
the
there.
floor plan, I think.
Sorry?
It was designed for the floor plan.
Yeah.
So in this sense, we should publish it because now we have this this gallery tour, the surfing session. Yes, and yeah, I think in this sense we should start our tour with the first work. With I think we should go from from the oldest to the newest.
All right.
And start with 2014, and yeah, you show it maybe.
Yeah, so this is the one. This is called CO2 GLE, GLE. I don't know. It just I can't pronounce it. It's meant to be read. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this piece I did it in 2014. It was December 2014. Oh, and somehow it stopped. So I'm gonna just try to refresh it again. Just a second. Yeah, here it goes. Should be refreshed here. I'm not sure why not. There's always these technical things, right?
It's always with net.art, I think. This is a part of the whole medium. I think that you can't avoid these kind of technical issues.
Yeah, maybe. Well.
Yeah, don't be upset.
It's okay. Always. So these numbers are supposed to go up and up and up increasingly. Well,
but you load it now from maybe we go really try it live. If you load it now local, as I see, then maybe try it live. Maybe it's better.
Yeah, but then I have to do like another screen capture, and it's a little bit tricky from here. But anyway, this piece is online and doesn't matter. I mean, it's just like it starts from 0, and in this number, the one that is in black, like highlighted, it just goes on and on and on forever. So this piece talks exactly about this. I mean, this sentence, I think it's quite self-explanatory, which is the amount of emissions that the global visits to google.com might generate every second. Yeah, and back then, my calculations were 500 kilograms per second of CO2, which was quite a lot, but still, and as I put in the about of this piece, it's really, really hard to calculate, to have like an exact number of emissions of the internet, because the internet is probably the biggest infrastructure that we ever built. It's composed by a massive number of actors, and it's just uncontrollable. It's impossible to determine its exact emissions, its exact energy consumption, It's just far too big, and that's also quite problematic, I find, especially in these times, and especially in coronavirus confinement, when just data centers, they might be just set on fire, yeah. But still, it's something that we don't see, right? And I think more and more now we are aware, like, the huge environmental toll of our internet industry. But back then, when I started to think about this in 2013, there was very little information on this respect, and I think what's the worst, it wasn't really embedded in the social imagination, and it's not it, right? I mean, I think like we are sort of, I mean, some people know, right? But it's still not a public thing, I feel, because I ask my nephews, I still try to insist on my parents that they know that I've been doing this for years, and they still don't truly believe it, right? And people are still quite skeptical about this. So I did this project exactly with this aim, just to connect these two things, right? And just to embed it, sort of try to embed it, to start a dialogue, to embed it in the social imagination, like data is highly polluting. Yeah, and we don't know anything about it, not even now. Recently I did this project in collaboration with Mozilla, which it's called Museum of the Fossilized Internet, which looks back at the internet in 2020, so it was sort of a flashback, yeah, like let's say it's 2050, 60, 70, and we look at how the internet looked now and how carbon consuming was. And I was doing some research, and I realized that according to whatever, it's hard to come up with a number, but it's speculated that 60-70% of the data that is being collected is just useless. It's just being collected and it's being stored. And that's a massive amount of energy to do this. Yeah, but it's about this logic of accumulation of capitalism. It's also going on with data. Yeah. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, it's really interesting because to try over the work to come in its course. But I think this not only the internet, that was what came into my mind. This is our human behavior. I think I remember on old times in the 70s, where I saw advertisements on the public TV in Germany, where they showed that you have to stack the pots on the gas oven if you make your meal, so that you save energy, that you have on the ground potatoes and on the top then carrots and stuff, and so that you have more stacks and more floors to save the gas.
Oh yeah.
So that was like to educate the people. So they sent it in the advertisement blocks, like public announcement. Look how you save energy. And it was not only gas, it was then also like if you leave the room, shut down the lights, and it was really like trying to educate the people. I was remembered because you said this is typical for the internet. No, I think it's typical for the human. If they have resources and they don't think about it, they have the tendency to use what is there. So, and not really reflect it. Also, I remember on myself that in the 90s someone came, as I started with net.art and thinking about net.art, and that they said to me, that if you go to a site, and so that is the energy of if you would like to do a cup of tea. And I said, yeah, and no problem. So, but I haven't really thought about it. So, and it was for me was this going on the internet was so more important, that it was for me not the question to waste energy or so.
Yeah.
Or anything. And in this sense, I think this kind of awareness, took me then 20 years, you could say, or somehow. And this is really good. That was also what catch my attention then later, 2014, as you said, then as you did this piece, that you were dealing with the topic. But I think also this was a time, but you had this perspective from the energy, energy perspective, but there were some works which had the infrastructure as a topic, I remember. So it was at the time where people were thinking more about these kind of hidden infrastructure. And I think it's still important, but not only the hidden infrastructure as a hardware, but I think also it's important, like what you said now, the capitalistic context, like who owns it, how it's built, who is controlling it, and all these kind of things are also then now should be a topic, I think. Yeah, okay, but I don't know. In a normal tour, I think maybe we could experiment in a normal tour. I could imagine that if we would stay in a gallery next to each other, but now we are Barcelona and Berlin. So, but if we would stay in a gallery next to each other, then we could make now a short space for questions.
All right.
So that if people would have a question, then to bring, they could bring it up here in a chat very fast or briefly, and then we could go on it and then maybe continue after this.
All right.
We have these, it's 24 people they watch, maybe.
Wow.
The gallery would be full. They would be crowded.
All right. Well, I just made a big mess. Like, I spilled this glass of beer over everything. Luckily, it didn't touch the computer. But I'm trying to, mitigate the risk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm a bit distracted.
If you would need time, then...
No, it's okay. Just like if I'm a bit distracted, I'm trying to prevent the beer to go into my computer. Anyway, sorry.
But you see, now we got the first question. Are you not in the same space? No, we are in Berlin and Barcelona. Yeah, this is a green screen technique.
Yeah, which works, eh?
Yeah, it works, yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, thank you. That's I got the assistant for paper to clean the table.
Okay.
Anyway, so this, while I'm cleaning the table, I'm going to try to explain the next piece. So as you've seen in the first piece, well, there is this number that's going up and stuff, and then I have problems with numbers in the sense that I think that they say a lot of things, but they don't say a lot. So what you say with the kettle, right? It takes the same amount of energy that to boil a kettle. Okay, so what? So this is like, okay, 10,000 pounds of CO2. It's a lot. In that sense, that the number is increasing a lot.
Yep.
But I don't feel that you can really integrate it. In the sense that you can't really understand. You can understand some sort of the metadata of it, or the meta knowledge, but you don't really understand what it implies for you, or how it affects you, your community, your daily life. So I decided to do this project, which is also very naive, I might say, which tried to calculate the amount of trees that we would need in order to mitigate the global, the CO2 derived from the global visits to google.com. Yeah, I came up with a number of 23 trees per second, but this is like a super average and nobody should take this seriously. But I think it's like also, I was much more concerned on communicating this issue. Yeah, as I said before, like my main goal was to communicate this issue publicly, to open a discussion. It's like to point the view, like to the gaze, to these is things that we have to be talking about. So that's why I did this DEFOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO And yeah, it's non-stop, just a cascade of trees, and that's it. Basically, it doesn't have any more secret.
For me, it was always interesting that I was thinking in the beginning, I was scrolling and was thinking that it should stop sometimes, but because I forgot that it's about Google and all the others, they ask Google also.
Yeah.
I was thinking the piece is only referring to me in the beginning, like my CO2.
Oh, really?
usage. Yeah, in the beginning, as I said, I'm really naive often, and I think it's about me all the time.
No, but
And
I think that's an interesting point, right? Because, sorry, I need to clean my tablet.
No, it's okay. I understand. Take care of it. It's now,
Yeah, it's everything. It was
it's now really relevant to have some devices at home. Nothing.
Okay, just like my phone and my tablet were here next to the beer. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
So I
Maybe
think what
no
you
beer at work.
maybe. So the whole thing is about this individualization of everything, right? And I think it's also about the guilt that when it comes to this CO2, it's like, oh, what can I do to mitigate this? You know, I feel so bad because now I'm streaming Netflix and blah blah. And I think this is a huge mistake, because the solution shouldn't be outsourced to the individual. Yeah, this is a much larger problem, which involves a lot of stakeholders, political, social stakeholders, also individuals, but also like other communities. And I think it's all this same thing, right? This same logic of capitalism to outsource anything to the individual, right?
I couldn't agree more. I totally agree. I think this also the appel always on your individual power and fate is misleading. That people buy then like juice, and then they think they change the world because they buy the innocent juice. Yeah, and then they are innocent, and so then they But I really distrust this individual guild system. So
because
I think
it
I come from
individuals, and it
What?
overwhelms you. I think it just it smashes individuals, it smashes wills, it smashes everything, because you cannot deal with everything.
I think too, and I understand, and in this sense, it's really good to show that so everyone on Google, everyone is affected and impacted. So in the situation where you show not only the single HTTP requests, so that you reflect more on the whole system of the internet. But for me, it would be also another topic, if I can make. Then I would say for me it was an interesting moment that you decided to switch from the really how you call it, minimalistic website presentation to this kind of narrative, so with images. And is it like this art decision where two things, so for me, and then but in the end it was more or less the same, and you already talked about why you did it. But for me would be also interested, I would be interested how your experience was after this. You got more attention, or you got more discussion, or more reflection about these kind of after you used like these pictures, and you went back to these kind of how you say it, Abbildung, these kind of imagery, as you went back from like this conceptual minimalistic piece. Has it more attracted, I would say, the discourse?
Well, I think that for me, what helped me to see, because this, I really did it in a very playful and intuitive way. It's not that I had like a long discussions with myself or with anybody about how should do this. It was actually a very spontaneous project. I remember I was with my partner and we're just discussing about this, and then we say, hey, it would be nice to see like how many factories, this could equal, and just talking like the trees appeared. And I feel like by me having this, I understood many things, right? I think that the piece helped me to articulate all the thoughts after I've seen it, so it was more, it was born through an intuition and more in a playful state, and then it really became very political.
Say artistic.
Sorry,
Yeah, it was more than artistic than the other was maybe more conceptual.
Yeah, I
And
think so.
that was maybe the beginning. And so then you made an artistic overwork, or you remix yourself.
Sort of,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I saw on your pieces, but we can go back to this later. But I saw on your involvement on your website, if you go through all the pieces, and you see that you work longer times on the same topic, and then you have always different versions or ideas to show different perspectives. So, like also the Amazon piece, or the Texas border works. I think these are three pieces about like this kind of border phenomenon.
Yeah.
And you had also the algorithm. So you have some topics, and then you work on the topic, and then you have the same, more or less. I say it's so simple, the same statement or so, but then you have different artistic approaches to visualize it, or to bring it in an aesthetic composition or something. Is this a typical workflow that you, or how?
I think I'm not sure because I feel like because my main topics are surveillance and but I can't say because I think there are many topics.
Sure. But I meant, so in special, if you go on your website, then you like this border topic.
Yeah. No, it's just totally. I think like because those are such complex issues, and I think that what I mainly do with my work, or what is natural for me to do, is just to reveal sort of hidden connections. Which is not that I create the connections, but I feel like connections that are not very clear that they are connected. That's why I read this statement. And there is so many.
Sure.
and I just think that one thing leads me to the other, in the sense that, okay, now I understood this, that it wasn't clear, right? And then a lot of other questions raised, and I just go and tackle those questions. And I guess the works I do at the end is just like summing up all my process of understanding this, right? I'm not sure if that's maybe too abstract, but I'm just trying to answer questions that I have, and I think that are worth directing the gaze through.
I totally understand. I think this is what I see that is art used, so to understand things. The position in the world. I see also, as I went in preparation to the exhibition, and also now to the streaming, I went again through your link list, and then I saw also there is this topic of infrastructure. You said now surveillance, but there's also the topic already it was there from infrastructure, and then you have always, for me, sometimes there's also a personal moment, like in this early piece, Hello From, where then you send these postcards to the data center.
Oh, that's so old. I did this in 2009.
But still, that's also the topic. There are already data centers, and then the network, and then the individual who is sending, or then it's a post system that is not. It's an old term of net art, like the post system. It's a net, where you send informations from one place to the other, and. You could go in this direction, but then it was then. But for me, I think these three pieces, they are somehow on the point, on the time, and they tackle a real important discourse. So, and this leads then also to the discourse now here in Berlin, where we have this Amazon topic, really the hot topic. I think it's now a little bit hidden, or it's a side now, because we have other problems. They are more in our face, but still there is this Amazon Tower, and you did some works. I think, but you did this work.
the Amazon
This would
work.
be that would be the third piece what we decided to show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's okay. So that's the Amazon, the hidden life of an Amazon user. I released this not so long ago, just in November 2019. I did this as part of IMAP residency at the Impact, this Center for Media and Technology, Media Art in Utrecht. So this whole piece, it's about all this amount of code that's hiding behind the interfaces. Yeah, and it's not just about the massive amount of code that is used to track our very thoroughly like our online activity, but also I was trying to map the amount of energy and the amount of energy that is paid by the user. But I want to start from the beginning. So what I did is I bought this book, which is The Life and Lessons and Rules for Success of Jeff Bezos, and here it has like quite a big subtitle: The Journey, the Teachable Moments, and 10 Rules for Success cultivated from the life and wisdom of Jeff Bezos. Yeah, and then, as you can see, it's just pretty thin. Yeah, just 62 pages. And if you see the typography, it's huge. Anyway, yeah. So there's not much to say, right? So I just bought this book in Amazon, in desktop Amazon mode, and I mapped or I tracked all the interfaces, the minimum amount of interfaces that I had to go through in order to purchase this book. Yeah. So the minimum amount of steps without clicking on anything else, any suggestion, anything. It was 12 interfaces. But the amount of code that was executing behind those interfaces was almost, well, I thought it was almost 9,000 pages of printed code, but after printing it in Berlin for these two exhibitions I had pre-coronavirus, it was more than 10,000 pages.
Yeah.
So this was quite insane. Yeah. So you see like this book, the 12 interfaces, and then you see like this tower, which I think it was around 80 centimeters long, something like that. And this is like all this imbalance, right? That if you see it graphically, you really understand that the imbalance. Yeah. And this is insane. So that's what I did. It was more than 80 megabytes of code that were loaded. And that's exactly what I did with this project. So I put like all the 12 interfaces. So I put the first interface and then all the code, the second interface and all the code behind it. This is just the second interface code. So if you scroll down, in the way that just with the mouse, it's about 15 minutes of scrolling down. So wow. I really wanted to show this. Yeah, and in this piece, what I see, it's like this relationship of energy compared to the human energy that we also use to run those interfaces. But the main point of this piece was to highlight to what extent we pay like the energy cost and part of the environmental tools of the Amazon user business model. Yeah, which is based, according to them, like obsessive customer focus, which basically means to track anything that's possible out of the user. And you see this very clearly when you try to track the code, because any single movement you do, there is a script that is executing. Yeah, in every single micro movement, every single second, anything you do. So in this case, I wanted to make this connection, right? Exactly, which is to point, okay, guys, great, you have this amazing platform and you're tracking everything in a very efficient way, but all these scripts, all those interfaces are being downloaded in our browsers. Therefore, there is an energy cost and, of course, then like an environmental toll that it's assumed by us. And we don't have any choice because all these things happen involuntarily. Yeah, we don't choose to load those things, but however, they're being loaded. So that's the main point. So it's like the user is not just exploited by means of free labor, but is also forced to assume the energy cost of such exploitation. And I think this is something that is worth looking at. And it's something that we don't tend to think about it like that.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And I was thinking as I saw these immense and massive code lines. Also, now I'm thinking again.
Well, it's sitting in the gallery still.
It's sitting what?
In the gallery, right? Like all these 10,000
pages?
Yeah.
All these papers are waiting that the pandemic is going back and we can operate again and showing things in physical. But I would like to say that coming back to the individual, that no one can, not a single individual anymore can read this kind of code anymore. That shows also for me, or it showed for me, these absurd grow what the internet had over the last 30 years, you could say. If you remember on the early pages, which were written in HTML and were really light in compared to this heavy amount of software. And then for me, this is the other side of the infrastructure we also not talking about, and that was, or not so often anymore. In art, we talked about this kind of transparency and question of media and what you can see and what is hiding and what is in front and what is a picture and what not and so on. Is code a picture or not? But it was very often aesthetically, or there were questions coming from the aesthetic point of view. And in this case, also, it was for me, on your piece, it was an infrastructure question. Because not only what you need on an individual amount of calorine or what, I don't know, calorine you use to measure the personal energy to scroll through all the pages. And you need a huge group of people to, a huge amount of energy, intellectual energy too, to serve for it.
Yeah, indeed.
And for me, in the end, for yourself, there is a whole culture around of people in building this kind of software infrastructure, and it's like slaves, you know, it's like this clicking libraries together, and no one can read it anymore. And I think a lot of this code could also maybe optimized and be simpler, but because of the huge force you need and the huge teams you have now, it becomes also this kind of monstrous and a perversion of text, you could say.
Yeah. Well, actually, there is a name for this. It's called legacy code.
Yes, they have to deal with this kind of legacy code, which is from years before, and then they take it with them, and then they have to use it. Or what does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, legacy code means that it's code or stuff that works in a code that was written, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, but things need to operate over this base. There's an engineer that recently told me, I don't know whether this is true or not, but he told me that, for example, like the algorithm that runs the Google search, it's being written in, say, the time span of, I don't know, 20 years, 30, I don't know, for so many different developers, that it's impossible to truly understand what it does anymore. Yes. Right?
Yeah. So I think it's a lot of this mainstream software the case. Yeah.
And that's a problem, because basically, like, economy, politics, everything, just, it's running on those algorithms, right? And nobody has control over them anymore, which, well, I think it's very tricky. It's very problematic.
Yeah, totally. I think this is that they, by themselves, the designers of this, or the people they work with this, they are fully aware of the problem, but they lay down the hope again into software. That they think that they will find a tool which then scrapes all the legacy things and cut it out, and then I don't know, will optimize the code and so on, you know. And then, but they don't think that they will do it over a human, that they also, again, think technique will solve this. And I think they don't start from scratch or so. That is often this kind of investment is too risky. So they maintain this kind of legacy.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't know. For me, the point was that as a single person, you can't understand it anymore. You know, it's the same like before we had with a single guild or there's a single responsibility. Yeah, you operate now on an infrastructure no one really can understand anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And even, when you understand it, if you manage to understand it, then it changed already, yeah, because things change too fast.
Yes. And this somehow, it's really, the piece is really showing clearly. And I think, in special for people, if you would, that was also my hope to show it in a gallery, because this is so massive, you know. Sure, we have now also the time here in the background. The code is scrolling and you get a feeling for it. But if you see the 10,000 pages, and it was really heavy to transport it. The one friend of you, he helped, and he transported from one part of the Berlin to the panke.gallery, and it was really heavy. So
yeah, it was.
Yeah, you get then the impression, and for this, a real gallery is sometimes helpful. So a real life gallery. I mean, but still, I really loved also here on the piece the simplicity and the way how it worked. So in a way that it's like minimal again, like the beginning, because you have only the code and you have only text and text and color. And it's a really minimal piece. So, and websites. And also interesting was for me that this is you were not really discussing the how it's called the circumstances under which a worker works or something. It was like about the web page itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
and about this.
And this is in a sense, it is a pure net art, you know, it's like about the medium. And it's really a question. So what is it nowadays? What is a website nowadays? Yeah. And this kind of, it's a monstrosity.
Yeah.
To say it like this. Yeah. And and I don't know how you see it, and you were invited in some contexts, and how you had the feeling. How is it perceived here in Berlin at the moment in the discussion?
Wait, and again, like within the Amazon discussion, things that you mean that this piece, how is it perceived in Berlin under the current state of Amazon?
Is it special? Yeah. Is it perceived in a different way, so that people say, "Oh wow, yeah," and this is why, and it's absurd, also? Or
the thing is that I had to present this work like 2 weeks ago in both places, like at the Weizenbaum Institute, at the UVK, they had the show, and at panke.gallery. So I didn't have the chance to check it with Berlin.
There is an interest, for sure.
But no, because it's pretty new. I mean, it's been exhibited 2-3 places, since November, but it's new, so it's still not. Yeah, well, it would have been a great place to discuss it at Panke, because it's more venue and next time. We could on this situation we could again open up for questions from the chat. Yeah, sure, I think so.
Now it's still 20 people there.
Okay, good.
And we have 50 minutes left, I would say, for an hour. I think our show could be an hour. That's a good amount of time. But because I think Yeah, I don't know. It's an experiment for me too. The whole streaming situation. I don't know what you think and how it works, but I think it would be nice to have some feedback. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be indeed. It would be just for the technical stuff. Well, it was fun setting it up. We spent quite some time actually.
Here's one question. How much code would scrolling through 80 pages of Amazon generate? But this is more or less so
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, yeah,
It's
I
a
mean, it could be.
question, and I think, yeah.
I mean,
It's
it
not
would probably be even more massive. I don't think it could multiply because then it would mean that you would probably click on suggestions, on I
You're
can't.
stuck with this.
Sorry.
No, you catch then, you're trapped with this.
Yeah.
If you start clicking on recommendations.
No, then you are done. Also, I calculated that just by hovering over some images, like some recommendations, like there is this carousel and then the images become big. Sometimes it would take up to 10 megabytes to load this, which is ridiculous. It's too much. So imagine the amount of users and how many pages they visit every day. It's a ridiculous amount of energy.
Yeah. And also, I think for me was also the point, then you only show what is in the browser, and you said, yeah, we have it to, we have no choice, we have to load it, and so. But on the other hand, if they would give me a choice and say, here, you can run it on our server only, so then I would be also saying, oh, I don't know if I would like to give my browser away, So I think the browser is still a frontier, yeah? And I'm totally happy that Mozilla still exists, yeah? And we can be lucky that we have not the Amazon browser where they calculate then all on their server side. But I think if you would see also the server side, so all the predictions, what they have, and also the how they call it, if they predict things from other things, expolation. I forget I forget the word, but if they do prediction on the basis of what all your clicks mean, more or less, yeah. These kind of things we never see because they run also, I think, on algorithms I think they wouldn't like to show, or I don't know, maybe they sell in between or something like this. I think there is happening maybe in the same amount of things on their side. We never see, No,
we don't. No, we just can't calculate what's happening from our browser. We have no idea of all these tentacles of data and algorithms that lie beyond that.
Yeah.
And that should be public domain. Because
what?
That should be public domain because all these processes waste a crazy amount of resources.
Yeah.
And this should be much more transparent. How to do this? I have no clue. But of course it should be public domain. I mean, as for example, like the internet is so opaque that even, I don't know, I was talking to a friend in Barcelona like a few years ago, and even like the telecoms, they do not disclose how their cables are being assembled or their infrastructure is being connected anywhere because they call it a industrial secret, which is like you people, you install all this in public soil, right?
Yeah.
So same thing.
Yeah. I think too. I was arguing for this for a long time that I think also the algorithms of Google and every algorithm should be transparent in a way so that it could be audited and be in a discussion. But then there was a counter argument often that these kind of algorithms are that they also don't know really what these kind of algorithms do. You can have an algorithm which is applied on a social problem, but the same algorithm can be modified and be applied on a mathematic problem or on a statistic problem or so. There is not really a format where you could say this algorithm is bad or here is a bias or something like this, I think. But still, I think it should be in public domain because it's like also like you said, it's like infrastructure.
Yeah.
But also we couldn't make it that housing is a public domain, or so we can be happy. I think that the streets are still public domain
For now.
for now. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't know after the Corona crisis.
Let's see, huh? Oh God.
Yeah, but I think now, I think we are now to an end. Here is one question: how do you compare the way of the website scripts the user with how can characters are scripted in novels?
Oof, again?
How do you compare the way the website scripts the user with how characters are scripted in novels?
Oh, wow. I have no clue. I've never thought about it. It's a nice question, but I couldn't tell.
Okay. Good answer. Yeah, this is always. I think code by itself is it's also part of the medium, and it has its aesthetic appearance, and it has also an aesthetic aspect, and then always these questions are coming. Then some people say also code is law,
Yeah.
and then the performance of code in a sense makes and describes characters, and so I think it's a huge topic.
Yeah.
I can't also answer this. I don't know. Yeah, but it's nice that these pieces bringing these associations.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, so I think then I'm totally happy with this event, and I would say thank you and close it. Or do you have something to say? Fine.
No, it was it's strange to talk to people that you don't see.
Yes.
And these people don't see each other either.
Yeah.
But I hope it was okay, and I hope that everybody's doing fine despite this confinement, which it's driving me a little bit nuts already, and I'm still a little bit in shock that suddenly, like, my life, my routine just vanished from one day to the other.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel like that way as well. I don't know, and I'm very scared of the implications that this might have. The most direct or most imminent, it's like in terms of surveillance, biosurveillance, what's going to happen. But yeah, I guess that's like another totally different discussion, because we would need like 24 hours at least.
Yeah.
So, well, I hope everybody's safe, and take care. And
Yes.